Good catch. Nobody else needed to hear me do that whole preamble again anyway. These guys have heard it a million times. So our guests tonight are, and I only remember everybody's first names, Mike from Hope in Maine, in Warren, Rhode Island, which is a not dissimilar incubator program. He's going to talk about that. We have Allison Angelini, I don't see where she went, who is herself a first-generation farmer. And then we have Patty from the Willimantic Food Co-op, which is sort of looking more to what a possible result of the programming at the incubator facility could lead to. And they're each going to take a little time with a little PowerPoint presentation. But before we get to that, I'm going to have Maura get up and talk about the site walk. It's probably, you have a fainter voice, so you probably want to get a little closer.
What? Yeah, so we had a great site walk. We had 13 hardy souls that showed up on Putnam's evening, so that was impressive. And Tira went over where all the grant funding stands and her efforts in that, so thank you for that. And yeah, I just talked a little bit in the beginning before we did the walk, just to try to keep in people's forefront of their minds about the permaculture aspect of it, and just defining permaculture as agriculture that really works on mimicking nature in a very small nutshell. Of course, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of tools. But just understanding that, and that there's the 3 ethics of earth care, people care, and fair share is very important. And lots of principles, 12 principles, things like valuing diversity, really working with nature in the cycles and seasons, getting storage and harnessing energy, and just it goes on and on. So really trying to think in those terms as we did the site walk. So we went down to the site, and there's a very steep access point. And so that was the beginning of what the permaculture consultant put in the plan. Called, there's 6 guilds in kind of like habitats in the whole area. And so just looking at what exists there now, so that steep slope, really needing to plant for erosion control. So restoring the ecological function to each of these guilds, what they should be doing, and putting in those layers. So sometimes we only have 1 layer of herbs. We want to put in ground for herbs. All of the different bushes, all the layers, shrubs, trees that are needed to really be a functioning ecosystem. So really distinct kind of areas, but all functioning together. This is a floodplain, right? But it's not actually working as a floodplain because it doesn't flood anymore. So needing to get all of the microbial activity in the soil back. There's a lot of sandy soil. So all of this is in the plan, and I just tried to review, these are some of the things, looking at each of these guilds that are, need to happen. And so I think people notice there's a lot of invasives, a real lot of invasives. We had bittersweet, we had everywhere, we had barberry, all of the common ones, and Norway maple too. So that the plan is to take those down and just really restore some of those forest guilds, to have those different layers, and to, eventually someday maybe be an old growth forest. So those are some of the goals in the plan, and everybody had great questions, a lot of questions. We talked a lot, and I think people, I hope, could envision beyond the invasives because we did see them everywhere we look. But I got a sense that people could see the beauty too. It was like, oh my gosh, look at those ferns. Like, there's some amazing ferns already there, but we want to supplement and add to the diversity of those ferns, not just have one kind, have 5 or 6 different kinds. So those are all things we talked about in the plan. And, I have to thank Greg, is he here? Thanks, Greg, because I put him on the spot, he's an arborist and he's going for his forestry.
Eventually.
Okay, so, studying forestry, so he was able to, talk a little bit about that and some of the plants that he was seeing, so that was really nice, instead of me just gabbing the whole time. Yeah, so we enjoyed it, and a couple of us saw some deer, and this guy saw
Oh, step down here.
the tiniest fawn apparently he's ever seen. So nice to know there's lots of wildlife already there, but of course, we're gonna try to get a lot more back, birds and pollinators with the different types of native plantings that are in that plan. So yeah, that's pretty much, thank you all for coming, and, I think it was successful, I had a good time, and, I'm forgetting anything. Thanks.
And what did we decide? We decided Allison was gonna go first? All right, come on up. Oh, yeah, we decided that when you weren't here. Okay, perfect. So let me just pull up your. Where'd it go? That's not you. This one, there we go. Slideshow. Right, now I gotta get back here, screen share it. And it's this one. Can the Zoomers see that?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Okay. Excellent, all right.
Am I driving?
Well, I can run, it's probably easier. if I
You
do.
want me to stand here?
Yeah, because then they can hear you on the mic.
Okay.
We're winging this, everybody.
Okay, well, my name's Allison Angelini. I own and operate Full Heart Farm in Ledyard, Connecticut. This is our 13th growing season, and so I'm a first generation farmer. Not technically a beginning farmer anymore, that's, you know, but it time flies when you're having. I feel like I just got started. The 4 acres, I grow on just 2 of them, and intensively plant just 1 of them. Primarily to, you can just keep like looking through, because
Oh, it's just a,
there's plenty of photos, but you can talk about whatever you find most pertinent to your project.
we don't know what's most pertinent.
So yeah, that's kind of, tapped in, we're immediately adjacent to the Master Certificate Peapod tribal land. Which comes with its own, lot of challenges. We primarily raise, cut flowers and vegetables. When I first started the farm, we raised, livestock, about 2,000 broiler chickens, we had 300 leg hens, and 20 pigs, all raised using rotational grazing to clear the property. It had never been farmed before, so it was similar probably to what you had been describing, full of invasives, overgrown. We use the livestock to clear the property and provide fertility. I studied sustainable agriculture at UMass Amherst, knew that I wanted to move back to Connecticut. I have a really big family. My mom has 15 brothers and sisters. So I wanted to be close to home. I worked as a farm manager for 3 years in Charlotte, Connecticut, which at the time, if you had a degree and 3 years of managerial experience and XYZ, you were able to apply for a farm ownership loan through the Farm Service Agency. And I had looked into leasing land. That was very, you know, at the time when I graduated college, it was all about local food and sustainability and small farms were the answer to so many of our country's health problems. You could just rent land and grow food and everything would be happy, except like you can't actually rent land anywhere. Like it takes such a right match of infrastructure and agreeability and resources that I couldn't figure it out, so, instead you know, decided that I was gonna embark on farm ownership. I purchased this piece of property. Everyone in my life told me it was like the thing I regret most, except for one person who told me it's okay to screw up your life as long as you're in your 20s, because you can fix anything with your I know which piece of advice was right there, probably a mix of all of them. But anyway, here we are. I got, you know, after I bought the farm, I got married, I had 4 kids, and we've just sort of been on this like slow and steady path towards trying to figure out like what does sustainable agriculture really look like, right? Like in college, and you know, I lived in Italy for a while, and I learned so much about environmental sustainability, and no one ever wants to talk about the economic, you know, sustainability has 3 pillars, like environmental, economic, and then personal, and no one ever wants to talk about money. I don't know why. I talk about money all the time. It's such an important part of like functioning as a human, and no one ever wants to talk about the people, which is the other really important piece to running a small farm with a small crew. Like I have real people with real lives working for me every single day and trying to figure out like an appropriate scale for balancing all these things and still like sleeping is just a constant struggle. So the farm sort of changes a little bit every year to fit our family life, to fit the ever-changing marketing needs of our local area. Like we were sort of like tracking along on like a nice upward graph that like I'm sure makes everyone happy, and then the pandemic rocked us and we can't seem to pull together the same mix of like strong wholesale accounts and happy customers that we had before. We grow a lot of cut flowers for market, primarily through mixed bouquets. We direct sell pretty much everything that we grow through farmers markets, farm stand, CSA, and to small restaurants. We also grow vegetables, plant over 300 different varieties of specialty crops. Basically, like that's my thing, is I grow the weird things for everyone. And that's fine. I like growing interesting things. I put in a slide about childcare because I feel like if you're going to support startup businesses, it's such a key piece. Everyone that I know, because we work so much with like other small food businesses, struggles to find childcare that fits their unique working hours. You know, my husband and I, and it's just like there isn't childcare in our town. It's hard to find it. It's hard to find it on the weekends, which is like when we need it the most. And I work from like 3 a.m. to 11 or 12. My husband works from 10 to 6, and we have the kids in the middle, and then we kind of just piece together all the other like market and delivery kind of things, but it's really chaotic. And I think that that's a really important aspect of sustainability for working with young people in food business today, is acknowledging that they have real lives and like they're not complaining about it. It's just a very tricky situation right now. And so, yeah, my children are with me a lot. We follow us on social media, and we see that they're always around. And that's one of the reasons that we grow organically, and we do those things human powered. We used to grow a lot of livestock. I lived in Tuscany for a while. I loved making prosciutto. I thought that like that was gonna be my thing, and then turns out I could only afford like this postage stamp sized piece of land next to neighbors who love to complain. And like in a town that prides themselves on like being an agricultural community that actually hates any sort of agricultural production, you know? Then that's the biggest issue is like they want hay fields. They think it's beautiful. They want like pictures of rolling hay fields, but if you need a water line or a fence or a building or anything that you actually need to grow food or fiber, it's a hard no. And so I fought and fought for a long time. And at the end of the day, like I just grew weary of everyone being hungry at the same time. And so the kids couldn't go, the animals could. And and that's what works well in this season of our life. But you know, one day I will make it prosciutto somehow. We grow year round. We have 9, I think there's pictures. We have 9 high tunnels. Well, never mind. We have, yeah, 3 of these larger seasonal high tunnels, which are great for extending the season. I think they're a little bit over marketed, if I'm gonna be totally honest, in terms of season extension. They're covered with 6 milliliter plastic, so that buys you about 3 degrees. It equals like 3 weeks on either end of the growing season. But what we found is the more important benefit is in their moisture control. As climate change increases the number of significant rain events that we get, these are invaluable in terms of like keeping everything dry and like foliar disease that we have on our plants. We also have 6 caterpillar tunnels. These are not as beefy, they're just installed over rebar. We can cut them up and take them down in a day, easy. And they don't, because they're smaller square footage, they don't hold as much heat mass. But again, they're easier and they keep things dry. We can sort of better manage microclimates depending on what we're planting in them. And for some reason, like zoning doesn't complain as much about those as they do the big ones. To the point, I mean, like, we had to like get the health department to approve not having a septic tank within certain, I'm like, the carrots, they don't poop. Like, we're just putting up a temporary seasonal structure. And I promise you, there's no poop. But, you know, everything needs a code and a lengthy public approval process. We have a barn there, that red building, it was in a few slides back, that we use. Oh, there it is. You can see it says EAT in tools on the front. That's from when zoning didn't allow signage on any building. So I put my ladder out there, and now we can hang up signs. But we use that for washing and packing, and for our farm stand. We're working to put solar panels on it to improve our energy use on the farm and insulate it to improve our working conditions, because it's really cold. Our well is over 600 feet deep. It's really cold washing vegetables in August, but it's really cold washing vegetables in the winter in the building. Access to water is another like just really critical thing. We actually had Natural Resource Conservation Services at the farm today with the state archaeologist, because we need to extend one of our water lines 50 feet. And because we're so close to the tribal nation, they have to come and dig test pits and sift all the dirt before we can put it, before we can extend the.
Oh,
That
like,
might be water.
like it's not every round or something.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that was my day.
that's nice.
Sure. Yeah, they found like a small Ziploc bag of quartz, if anyone needs some. But yeah, I would say, you know, getting started, the biggest like investments that I prioritize for investing in ways to mitigate climate weather related risks, things like fencing, water, high tunnels, basically anything that reduces how incredibly risky farming is, has always been our priority, investing whatever, the weakest aspect of that is. And so it's just been a slow and steady growth towards that. There were other sides, but if anyone has any questions, I feel like.
Well, we're gonna be here also till 8, so after everybody goes, if there's questions now, that's fine, and in discussion later too.
I just don't want to, I didn't actually look at what time I started.
That's okay, I'm watching.
Okay.
I always,
Roads I stand, the car crashed into it today. I think it's okay. I couldn't get a good look at it, yeah. We live on the most dangerous road in town, so that's fun. The sign is definitely gone. The car rolled several times.
Oh.
Water, yeah, water is a big thing. We use water, we need clean potable water for washing, we need water for irrigating, we need water for crops, we need, water 365 days of the year. Accessible and clean. We try and keep up with water testing and food safety standards. They're always changing. That's another big challenge for us. Because we don't ever seem to have that. Lighting is another thing that we invested in really early on, because again, we work, we burn the candle at both ends, but we don't use candles, we use lighting. We use grow lights to help save on our propane bill in the spring. We fill our walk-in coolers with lights and heaters. It's much more energy efficient to heat our coolers than to heat that giant ceramic covered building. But I think, if I could start over, I would put more lights on the farm, because it just makes things so much easier to be able to extend our workday. What else did I? Oh, fencing is another big issue that if you're starting the project up front is a really big investment. That is good to make while things are a mess, We have just a 5-strand temporary electric fence around our field. It's ineffective unless you train your local deer population to use it, which we do. Turns out, we had terrible deer issues last year. It was relentless. And then finally I realized, I bought that natural peanut butter, the one that's healthy that you have to know. Choosy deer, choose Jif. Has to be the crappy stuff. We put it in the deer caps, you wire it up with the fence. Yeah, they came, they saw, they left. Has to be Jif. And so, and then when you were talking about invasives, it just reminded me that keeping the edges out of the field is another constant. We spend about $5,000 a year just trimming the trees and the edges of everything, because they constantly grow in, and we have such a small parcel that we have to keep the limbs off of all the buildings.
Yeah, I noticed on your website, since a lot of what we're talking about now is an educational component, that you do workshops. I thought maybe we could address some of that.
We do. I think there was a slide about that actually, as part of maybe there was.
well, it might have been back here too, because we
We,
skipped a couple.
In terms of thinking creatively about non-farm ways to add revenue. We do some value-added products, but these are pictures of our workshops. Primarily gardening type workshops. We do a big seedling sale in the spring. We usually do a series of workshops related to seed starting, heater growing, raised bed design, and then we usually do some floral arranging type workshops, or as a kind of experience the farm and celebrate Mother's Day, or we try to align them to other holidays.
Participation. Community members.
Yeah, I think like everything else, once in a while, you just don't get the day right or whatever it is. It can be hard to figure out what the problem is sometimes. Yeah,
Water is very important to any farm. Are you near any bodies of water? How do you collect rain?
so we have a stream on our property, our parcel, the parcel that we farm, was originally part of a larger farm. And so there's a pond across the street that has a functioning sawmill still from when there was a larger dairy farm, more than 100 years ago. We don't collect rainwater. I am not sure how folks test rainwater to use it. I don't, I've asked people like what they do. This seems to be, I don't know.
Do you have to water test for food safety reasons?
Yeah, you can't irrigate crops with non-potable water.
Yeah. So
Um,
you couldn't use rainwater. And maybe.
No,
Or,
it's-
yes.
it's so expensive. I don't think there is. I mean. My understanding is that well water, we have 2 wells on the property, it has to be tested 4 times a year. I don't know how that would equal to rainwater, a rain collection system. Because it's stagnant. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know if that has to answer that question. But my thought is that. Is that it makes me uncomfortable, because I don't know how you could affordably test it frequently enough to ensure that the water is clean enough to use.
You can't use the rainwater for flowers, and not something you eat. If there are others.
You could, but most of the time we're growing both food and flowers everywhere. I think that like crop rotation and crop diversity are really important to me. And so setting up a system where we were using some water for certain areas. I don't even know how we would like track that in a way that felt like honest enough to our customers. That's just a personal thing, I can see like the environmental benefits of collecting rainwater, but I can't see how that fits in sort of like a regulatory. It is though, I mean, you have to keep rainwater clean,
Right, yeah.
you don't know what's falling, that like, yeah.
But it needs to share. Bill stuff.
I'm, like I said, it's just certainly not, it's just not an area I have the knowledge of to.
Looked into it with shale salt, is actually filtration for rain, from rain, because rain's considered acid rain, so to speak. But with shale, when it hits shale and like the roofs, if you were to go to Bermuda or something, all the roofs down there be with shale stuff that's there. And then when it rains, it goes down the roof into the rain, into the rain gutters, into tanks. Because that's the only, the shale purifies the rain. So to do that, you make your own shale bed or whatever, if you like, you get stone. And then you just use a pump, small pump, something that pumps 4 5 gallons a minute. Go from one to the other, it's like a filtration. And
Yeah,
it's-
I think you would find examples of it. We did talk with NRCS about putting gutters along our tunnels, right? Because the whole point of the tunnel is it keeps the crops dry, which means that there's lots of water that comes off of them. But at the end of the day, it was just like, how do you affordably test the water to meet the environmental safety, to meet federal safety standards? If someone has an answer, it's not.
I think I remember now, the permaculture consultant suggested. sorry, filtration, some kind of filtration unit would be before it gets.
That's a charcoal thing.
I'm gonna change the subject to town and regulation, because it's a common thing that we hear from farms. So could you talk a little bit about how you selected your farm? Was it purely out of, I need land and I can afford this? Was there a sense that the town would be welcoming and act friendly? And then only to find out when you get farming that they weren't? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because, you know, we work with farms that gung ho and they start working with the town and they sell the land and move back because they're like, I can't farm.
Yeah, I'm a fighter, so. Trying to dig my heels in. I was 23. So like, I'm not gonna pretend like I knew what I was doing, right, like. Yeah, I bought it because it was the only thing I could afford. There were so many rules with the USDA farm ownership loan process, like. That I sort of got pigeonholed into what I was looking for, and again, like, you know, my goals have sort of changed over the years. But I really wanted a house. Like, I wanted to live and I wanted to build a lifestyle around agriculture, not just an agribusiness, like. I had worked on farms where I didn't live there, and it was just so draining to constantly have to like. Worry and then drive 20 minutes to make sure everything was okay. And so finding a house plus land is, there's basically just no options. And then I had been under contract for 2 other pieces and my loan was running out. So my options were really limited at the time. I grew up in Ledyard. I went to elementary school where my kids currently go to elementary school. I swore I would never move back there. That is why I live there now. Classic Odysseus story. There's no other reason for it. And so, yeah, like there's an agricultural high school there. There's like, this time, it was gonna be great, right? But like, it's a conservative town. People have very strong concerns when it comes to the what ifs, you know, like that first kind of like, well, what if everyone in town wants to grow organic carrots? And I'm like, I'm like, then we'd have so many carrots. Like, let me tell you exactly how many people want to grow organic carrots in this town. Just me. That's much. And so it's like that with, you know, with everything. You're looking at the head of the ag commission. Like, but it just takes so much time. It takes time to like get people to soften to the fact that like you're not out to ruin everything about the world. Like, oh, I think like people are actually starting to realize like maybe she just wanted to grow organic carrots and not like destroy the universe. Like, I don't know what they think. But yeah, it's like, I mean, everything's been a battle, but it just requires advocacy. We got like, you know, we have this, like, NRCS is a great example. Every time we work with NRCS, it's like, I'm gonna need to take a breather, are you kidding? And then, like, they're like, oh, look, we used your feedback, and we fixed this, like, disastrous program for the future generations, and so, it does, like, I think sometimes it just takes me, like, looking at people like, for real, and then they're like, oh, maybe we'll reconsider that, because they just don't have enough, like, young, articulate people who can just be honest in front of them and say like, I'm just trying to like do the right thing, just trying to do the right thing. And so, yeah, we still don't have a great zoning situation in Ledyard. We can't freaking agree what the definition of a farm should be. everyone, I'm the tiniest farm ever. I'm as tiny as they come. And every rule they want, they constantly just want to, right, currently in there, the minimum acreage to become a farm is 3. They want to move it up to 10. And I'm like, that does not support first generation farmers. No one can buy 10 acres of land. No one can afford it. It hardly exists. Like, it will just be the hill that I die on, that like, the future of farming is tiny because that's all that's left. And so, like, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm working on it. Like, and when I started farming in Connecticut, you know, when I started Full Heart Farm 13 years ago, like, I was one of the first, like, tiny first generation beginning farmer that like, that bought property, like, I paved the way. There are so many more new farmers in the state now. And it is, there are more resources, it is easier in so many ways. It's easier to figure out. It wasn't, 15 years ago.
I do think that it is, the farming was so huge, right? Every community, there was a local farm, that's what we did for so many years, and just in the last, 50 years, it's gone all commercial, these huge farms, and so these regulations got like put into place in this last half a century or
That-
century.
That's a much bigger conversation that I think we can maybe come back to, because I want to give so Allison's gonna be here, but I want to bring Mike up next from Hope and Maine, and there's actually some good transition there. Thank you, Allison. And there's some good transition there because you're talking about what it takes to start up, right? What are the resources and how do you learn to do these things? So I think that's where Mike's going to talk to us, and I'm going to find his PowerPoint. So just bear with me, guys. Which one is yours? I think this one is, no, that's Willimantic Food Co.
PDF, PowerPoint.
Yeah. I have them all pulled up. I just, if it's a PDF, then it's this one. Nope, it's not that one. I'll find it. I have them all, this one. That's, yes, yes.
I think it's because the projector might be acknowledging the screen, big screen is a second.
So let me go back and just close the other one entirely. There we go. There we go.
How's everybody doing? Good. Has anybody been to Hope and Maine? Yeah, okay, couple. Anybody ever heard of Hope and Maine? You've never been? Okay.
Rhode Island's like another planet.
Yeah, right. It's so small, man, if it were a perfect square, it'd be a 38. So thanks for having me. Happy to be here. My name is Mike Mowry. I'm the Director for Member Success at Hope and Maine. Hope and Maine is a really cool organization. So we are a nonprofit culinary incubator, which means that we exist to help people start food businesses. Some of them are farms, but not all of them. So we are in Warren, Rhode Island. Has anybody ever been to Warren, Rhode Island? Okay, so more people have been to Warren. Warren has the honor of being the smallest town in the smallest state in the country. A thin strip of land between two bigger ones, Bristol and Barrington. And so the name comes from the fact that in Warren, it's called Main Street, but just over the line in Bristol, it's called Hope Street. So it's Hope. So we were founded in 2014 by a really amazing woman named Lisa Raiola, who's our president and founder. And she at the time was very, very sick with pretty nasty cancer. And determined that she was having a hard time finding the right foods that she could eat to help with her disease. So she looked into starting a food business. I want to start a food business and food. And as soon as she started doing that, she realized it's very, very difficult to just go start a food business. If you went today and tried to open one, you find it very challenging. So Lisa's one of those people that once she finds a problem, then she finds the next bigger problem and the next bigger problem and starts working there. So she said, I can't be the only one who's having a hard time starting food business. I'm going to start a culinary incubator. So they Googled what's a culinary incubator and figured out how to start it. So we are in a schoolhouse that was the elementary school in Warren that was built in 1915. It's a 3-story building. It's really, really cool. We have markets every Wednesday. So if ever you're feeling quite adventurous, want to drive to Warren, you can. It's probably an hour and a half. An hour and a half.
From here to there.
Yeah.
Good time for us.
Probably, but I don't know, that Garden Bay, so
Oh.
it's everything. I think they built some bridges and put ferry in there.
Hmm.
Okay, next slide. What happens?
Oh, yeah, because it's a, gotcha,
So
gotcha.
this presentation was for another group called the Global Food Awards, so some of this stuff is interesting. You all know where we're at this, so we're strategically located between Boston and New York. Most of our members, 80% of our members are, just under 80% of our members are Rhode Island-based companies. But 20% of them come from Bristol County, Mass, which is, one of the closer counties to Rhode Island. But we do have members in New York and Connecticut as well. Stanford being the furthest away. So we have members in Stanford who would work set up. Next. So it's really a very fascinating place because I'll go over the 4 pillars that we work on helping food businesses, start food businesses. But we have about 100 current producing members. That means there's 100 businesses that produce their products at Open Main. There's an extra 50 or so that are graduate members. So people who graduated from our program who want to retain membership because of our network and the things that we offer. So the whole reason we exist is to help people get from I make a great barbecue sauce to I can now legally make a barbecue sauce to sell in the market, to now I have a barbecue sauce company. Now I can go build myself a barbecue sauce kitchen and start producing it. The idea is that we de-risk the food entry into the food business system. So it's very, very risky if you wanted to take that barbecue sauce and start a barbecue sauce company. You'd have to go build a kitchen, which would cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. You'd have to do all the regulatory stuff on your own, which is very tricky to navigate. And then you'd have to start trying to sell your barbecue sauce in the market that might hate your barbecue sauce, right? So all that risk, you could lose your home, you could lose all sorts of things. The idea is you can come to Open Main. Our kitchen rates are subsidized because we're a nonprofit. About 60% of our income is from fundraising. The other 40% is from operations, which is pretty good for a nonprofit. Next. If you don't know this, the food economy in Rhode Island is super, super important. It's like one of the most important things we have going to the state, whether it's fisheries, food processing, grocery, and obviously restaurants. The restaurant industry is massive, especially for it. So it's all very intertwined. We have our own food czar at the state level, one of the few states that actually has a state person who's focused solely on food from RI Commerce Corporation. Her name is Julie Stelmazik. And so Rhode Island is also involved in the Food Solutions New England plan, which is to produce 50% of our food for New England by 2060. It's a very audacious goal, maybe not possible, but it's inspiring. Next. Sorry, it's so much easier. So that's a mock-up for the building was sort of built out. We were not gifted this building. We are paying back a loan from the USDA for this building. But it's a great rate. It's like 3% loan for 4 years. But this was not a gift. We worked hard to fund this thing, keep this thing going. And this is our mission, which is to empower inclusive community of entrepreneurs to jumpstart and cultivate thriving food businesses that are the foundation of a more just, sustainable, and resilient food economy. We see the success of small players in the food industry as the solution to the large agribusiness food system that we all saw just collapse when COVID hit, right? Empty grocery stores, all these things. Supply chains that don't work for most people. So we see ourselves as playing a role in that system. Thanks. And these are the things that we do for members. So we operate the kitchens in Warren. In our building where our office is, we have 4 commercial kitchens. Just down the street at Buzz Handkerchief Factory, we have 2 cold kitchens. These are kitchens that have no heating, so if you're blending tea, for instance, you could do that there. We also have a marketplace and a cafe in downtown Providence where you could go buy member products. There's 100+ member products that we sell there. We also have member businesses operate out of that space. So the cafe that we run there is run by a member business. The head chef in the back that runs our culinary team is also members. He produces his products and what we make. So that's the shared piece. Really, part of our magic is that we see our members all the time. So our office is there, and our members come use their whatever it is. Again, barbecue sauce or cookies or salsa. And they're in the office, they're through the office, we're constantly connected with people. We offer a ton of technical and business assistance. So from the very moment you onboard with Hope & Main, we're walking you through licensing, we're talking about taxation, state. We get it all, we help people fill out the forms, help people hand the forms in, all that stuff. And then additionally, we do costing for people. So when you have a business trying to figure out how much do I sell this jar of barbecue sauce for, it's kind of complicated if you're not a math person. Most of our members are not. Most people don't come to Hope & Main because like, I have a killer business idea and I'm just full of business acumen and really gonna crush it in the market. Most people are like, this is the thing I'm passionate about. I only want to do this, and I'd like for this to be the thing that makes me money. Those are our members, right? So we've got to be the person that provides the business training for all these people. We do a lot of access to markets, so we run our own markets for people, direct sales opportunities called makers markets, primarily because the farmers. So we have a few farms that are at the markets, but they're mostly for makers. And that's how most of our businesses start. So MVP, minimum viable product. What's the least you have to do, regulatory wise, image wise, to get your product in front of people to start testing what they think of the flavor, what they think of the price, all those things. Get them in the market, test your product. And then most people, if it's CPG, which is consumer packaged goods, anything you buy in the can, the bottle, the jar, the box. Most people go from direct sales to wholesale, which is now a sell to a store that sells to the consumer, and then on the distribution. We also do a lot of B2B, which is business to business. So we help members sell to other businesses, which is very, very really beneficial for most members because they can usually bulk pack things. For instance, instead of making 15 jars of this, I could put it in a bag that holds 15. I do one fill, and now I can sell it at a lower price and produce a lot more. And then lastly, connections to capital. So we are pretty well networked at Hope & Main. So we have a lot of connections with local banks or community development funds, channel members to for loans. We also have a few scholarships for members, so we can offset some of the costs of producing at Hope & Main. We have application processes for that. And like everything we do, we walk people through the application process because we're not going to be your last application for a loan, for a grant, as you're getting started. Yep, next. Yes, so there's a picture of kitchen C, A, B, C, and D, and E. Yeah, those are the ones that are in our office. All the kitchens are code compliant. So the cool thing about us is we operate the kitchens. Every member business is its own independent entity and it uses our kitchens. So when the DOH, Department of Health, comes, they're inspecting that member in our facility. So we keep the kitchen up to snuff, but the member comes and gets inspected on it. And we also have a gluten-free kitchen, which is pretty rare to find around here. So it's a commercial gluten-free kitchen. It's not a certified licensed gluten-free, so you can't certify your product as gluten free. But we're pretty rigorous about it in the building. We have all sorts of equipment for loading. We have a loading dock, shipping, receiving, glass, and cold storage, and walking. And demo kitchen, so we have a demo kitchen which is non-commercial, but people could rent it out, it's got really nice lighting, they can do photo shoots for the products, sorts of stuff. Classrooms and event spaces. So one of the cool things there too is that we share the space with members, so members are there making sales phone calls, calling distributors. Or whatever it is, and they're in the office printing stuff, so again, it's that constant contact, we're not some obscure. Educational offering thing, you don't just come to us and get a class and then, oh, great, I got pay Hope and Main, whatever. You're in Hope and Main all the time when you're first getting started. Next. So here's some of the nuts and bolts. We've launched over 450 businesses since 2014. This is a staggering number. 1 in 4 consumer packaged businesses in the state of Rhode Island is housed. So 25% of CPG businesses in the state are out of there. If you look on the state map of where the food processors licenses are, it's insane to look at because about 80% of them are in the town of Warren, which is the smallest town, the smallest. So we have way more than like Providence or even like Point Two, which is down south of Fishback and stuff. And we have a 45% success rate. That's very, very high. The failure rate for CPG business is 90% within 2 years. So I don't take credit. I can't. I've been there 2.5 years. So this is, I'm walking into the mojo. But there's something in the way we do it. We're also willing to adjust as we, if you think about the technical assistance that we offer, so we offer continuing ed. One example of a good continuing ed class that we offer is food photography. So we will train our members on how to be food photographers because they can't afford to go pay a food photographer, thousands of dollars. Right? So train the member to be a food photographer, they can go do that and stuff themselves. There's a lot of that empowering people to learn new skills and take those reins. And some demographic stuff. Most of our members are women, and a good portion of our women, almost half, are people of color and minority businesses. So we think about recipe, we take a recipe, we turn it into a product, we turn it into a brand, we turn it into a business. And the idea is to scale up and out and ready to go. Next. This is a great example. One of my favorite members, her name is Kathleen Belici. Has anybody heard of Belici's Best of Stuff? Okay. So she was in her mid-70s. She started this business as an homage to her husband who passed away. When they were married, one of their favorite things to do is make biscotti together. So after he passed, she started this biscotti business. On the very far left, you can see this is how she started, right? Handmade in Hope and Main in 2015. She was baking the biscotti in our ovens, and then she's taking them and putting it into little plastic bags, hand sealing the plastic bags, taking a label, slapping it on there, and going to market, right? Selling it direct. 5 years later, she makes some pretty good connections. Her biscotti is insane and very, very good. She makes some connections with Whole Foods. They pick up her biscotti. She can't make it on biscotti for Whole Foods. So she has to find a co-packer. So that's exactly what she did. She went to Connecticut, she looked all around, she tried to get the manufacturer in New England. So she finds a co-packer in Connecticut to help her make it. She gets picked up by TJ Maxx. Really big moving places. TJ Maxx, by the way, really into specialty goods, which is why if you ever walk in, you see that random section of like, oh, that's interesting, avocado chips or whatever. That's part of one of their things. And then she's not one ever to rest, so she saw an opportunity in the market and started making cannabis coffee. As soon as they legalized cannabis in Massachusetts, she said, hopping on this, she's an old time like Greenwich Village, like she was there. And so her cannabis coffee goes under the brand name No Stuff. She's amazing. She's on this one. She's like every month of the year she swims in the ocean in February. And she's got all the women in my office now are going with it also. They call it selfies. It's all very cool. Next one. And here's another example of that, less de-risking for an individual who might not have resources. I don't know if you know, chef named Sides. So we co-pack one of his sauces, so he has these things called Ming's things, which are like, I don't know, like hand patty kind of things. We make his sauce, so he saw an opportunity to test getting the sauce co-packed. Found Hope in Maine. We do the co-packing for him, so we also can co-pack at pretty small scales, which is pretty innovative. What a co-packer does is, let's go back to the barbecue sauce, because it just keeps saying, I make a barbecue sauce, all of a sudden now I get a bunch of big accounts, I can't produce enough. I don't have the hours to make it and then sell it and then drive it around. I need to do one of two things, build myself a factory to make barbecue sauce, or find a co-packer to make the barbecue sauce for me. So a lot of people go the co-packing route because you can start selling more instantly if you want to build a manufacturing factory. This is a good example. So he came to us, we make his sauce, he sends us all of the ingredients, all of the packaging. It's his recipes, all that stuff. We make it and we send it to him. So that's something that's pretty innovative. It's not efficient. I would not recommend starting a co-packing manufacturing business on a small scale because co-packers only work when they're making a quadrillion one thing over and over and over again. 12 to 24-hour shift. When you make 1,000 bottles of barbecue sauce, then you gotta swap it out. You gotta pack 1,000 bottles of salsa, then you gotta change it all out and pack whatever. It's terribly inefficient. Lose all your benefit. But we do it anyway because for our members, we fill a gap. Fill a gap that they don't have in the market. So it's a way to keep it alive.
When you say that we co-pack it, do you mean your members? Do you mean the Hope and Main staff?
Yes. We have a culinary staff.
Oh,
Our staff. We have 5. There's a chef, Jerry Furtado, who's the director for co-pack, and then he has a chef lead, and there's about 5 culinary staff, almost everything. And we'll make products, so Tito salsa, Ming's dipper sauce, whatever it is. Next. This is a little bit about the tabletop show that we run. So we run Rhode Island's only, surprisingly, Rhode Island's only business-to-business food trade show. So this has been really successful for us. It's probably been in the 9th year that we've been doing it. So we organized for all of our members. Last year we had about 55 members at Farm Fresh Rhode Island for one whole day, basically trade show. So for a lot of our members, this show is their launching into wholesale. So before I would sell my product only directly to the customer in the market. Now I want to sell my product to Dave Martin Fresh Marketplace, for Tom's Market, or any of like smaller chains of that. The tabletop show becomes an opportunity for us to do those trainings with members in a way that's very tangible. So we hold a workshop, we have a buyer come from Dave's to talk about best practices as a vendor at a trade show. We have a branding person that we work with to talk about how to set your booth up, how to look professional and act professional in the show. And then we have Farm Fresh, who has their own distribution system called Market Mobile. They will come and talk about distribution. And then on top of that, we do individual one-on-ones with everybody participating in the show to get them ready. And then day of the show, they arrive, they set up their product, and we bring about 350 buyers from Whole Foods, school districts, Mass General, all the local markets, lots and lots and lots of buyers. And it's only business to business, not open to the public. So that barbecue sauce, you have an opportunity now to talk to 300 buyers from all over, basically the Northeast. I got into Parksville Co-op in New York City. Unbelievable. Can't believe I pulled it up. A lot of those stories come out of it. One of my favorite ones, we have a member called Little Maiden Lemonade. She makes international lemonades. So she's got like traditional American style, Brazilian style, and Southeast Asian style. She bottles them in their shelves. They're incredible. She was at the show. She got into Boston Children's Hospital. Pretty cool. The idea that she'd be in the cafeteria, which would probably be one of the items to get in the cafeteria. They got it in there, was so successful, they said, guess what, we want to pick it up for room service, for bedside service. So now, kids at the hospital can order lemonade, and it'll come table set, which is it's all very cool to put these dots together, right? And this is all because she went to the trade show and lots of children's hospitals that build that relationship. with all that. Thanks.
I just ask a question,
Sure.
do you rather us hold on that,
Go ahead.
just scale, right, like if they're, like, how do you coach them through to know that they're ready and can bond, like, farms that we work with, like, I want them to buy food, but then they have to do stuff, and they keep up, and they do the volume, so is that something you're coaching them through?
Yeah, we do a lot of that. A
Okay.
lot of that, like, just the other day, actually, we had a woman, a company's called Ginger Gems, really amazing, like, can't beat gingers. She, again, started this company because she needed, something to eat, she was going through chemo, needed products she could eat, to help her stomach with stomach issues, so she made this product really work. And she's like, just the top lady, she's probably, she's from there, she's awesome. She goes to the trade show, FinTop show this year. Starts pitching her Ginger Gems, very natural salesperson. She leaves that show. Stop and Shop's like, we want to pick you up in 393 Stop and Shops. Cool, guess who we're co-founders? Us. Okay, now what? So it's a perfect example of like, you succeeded and now you have a whole new set of problems, right? And this is the food industry. If you sell tech, like I sell access to a website or something, a more intelligent example. This is how you scale, right? You just ramp up. Like I can start selling more of these, I can offer more services, it doesn't really require that much money, but. In the food industry, we talk about it's like a staircase. I can do this much, this is how much I can produce and how much I can sell. If I want to go here, a whole lot has to happen at this cliff phase, right? I either need a really expensive piece of equipment, or I need capital to buy ingredients, or I need capital to buy bottles, or all of those things together. Or my co-packer can't make me that much product. So then you gotta get creative about how to fix that issue. So that's where we're at with Suzanne Hammonds. So is there a piece of equipment we can buy? Sure, we can buy a $210,000 set of our building. But just like, oh, we would never be efficient enough, it would never make sense to buy that, never use it to its fullest.
So
So,
is that a graduation story, or she has to move on to a bigger?
it's TBD. The next step is, we're gonna join her to go meet Stop and Shop. And talk about the issue, and we know Stop and Shop. So, yes, we're constantly having a conversation. I come from manufacturing too, so for me, it's really interesting, food manufacturing. It's interesting to me because it's in my blood to make things, I wanna make things, but not every member that we have is like that. Many of them would rather just go back and do sales or purchasing, whatever it is that makes them really joyful about their business. For me, I'm always like, build that factory, come on, let's do it. This is just an example of some of the diversity of businesses that we have, so. Makers of all sorts of backgrounds, making all sorts of things. Greece, China, Venezuela, Italy, Brazil, Senegal. That Senegal, the business called Casamay, this is one of my favorite stories. It's a member named Bakari Diatta, who immigrated to the States from Senegal. He arrives here, he doesn't speak any English. He's here for 6 months, and then he starts his food business, which is called Casamay. Back where he's from in Senegal, one of the most popular things that they grow is hibiscus flowers, the hibiscus sun, delivery flowers. And they make all sorts of jams and teas and stuff with the hibiscus. At the time, not a huge market for that in the States. He sees the potential, he said, nobody's here is eating hibiscus, but it's so good, and they'll as soon as they try it, it won't work. So he starts a fruit spread business called Casamay. So he makes the fruit spread and he starts selling. Like he has a it's a newer business model, like a corporate entity, LLC3. It's like a limited profit business. So it's a for-profit entity that you can grant, you can raise grant funds. The whole idea is that you're not just profit driven, you have a profit and other missions that you're trying to accomplish. His is that he takes so he imports the hibiscus from his community in Senegal. That's cool. He makes the gin here in the States and sells it to American consumers. He takes excess earnings that he doesn't need to run the business, sends them back to educational and entrepreneurial programs for girls and women in his communities. Unbelievable, right? He learns English by the time he starts to do this, right? Every year we do individual meetings with our members, one-on-one, gross revenues, let's talk about incentives, let's talk about cost of goods, integration, all this stuff. My favorite question is, what's some advice that you give yourself, knowing what you know now, to the person who's starting the business? So Bakari today would sell Bakari and paid one. Some advice. His advice was, I would have started sooner. Just a perfect example of just got gumption, got he's an entrepreneur, it's gonna make it happen. Now he makes ready to drink beverages that are incredible. He's on Walmart.com. He got Rhode Island Small Business Association Exporter of the Year because he's now minority business certified and export products to like the DR and all sorts of other places. He's really taking advantage of what he's got, which is incredible. Next. There's a bit about our Maker's Marketplace. So that's our restaurant, cafe, grocery store, etc. It's very cool. We're very member focused. We're constantly talking about members. Almost everything we do is we have a member lens on, which that all starts at the top and trickles down throughout the whole organization. This is Kalpana K. Her name is Kim. She came to us by way of another incubator in Boston, looking for co-backing. She makes these incredible, like, camping ready to make Indian meals. So like if you're young, then you just add hot water, 50 minutes later, you eat your ham. Incredible stuff, very innovative. Thanks. And here's a few more success stories. So Minnie Long, Chef Minnie, on the left is a Vietnamese immigrant who came to the States when she was young with her parents. She got into culinary, as a lot of people do. A lot of immigrants get into culinary work. It's an easy way to get a job quick. So she worked in culinary, worked herself up to becoming sous chef and all sorts of other stuff. Always wanted to make kimchi and start a kimchi company, so she started Chi Kitchen. She is now like a Sophie Award winner. I don't know if you're familiar with Sophie Awards, it's the Specialty Food Association. It's very, very high on it. So she now makes this award-winning thing. It's like fermented sesame kimchi. It's out of smoke. On the right is Matt Luby, who run a company called Backyard Food Company. They also started out at Health Maine. They were the 2021 Supplier of the Year with Whole Foods. There's a lot of these kind of stories. Are you familiar with Feast and Fettle? Yeah, so a few people. And you see them all over the place in Rhode Island, but they started at Health Maine, their prepared foods business. But it's home delivery and nothing's ever frozen. So they don't have a freezer in the facility. They started a hub in Maine. Now they manufacture all these meals ready to eat in East Providence. They own a fleet of 40 vans. They drive all of New York, Maine, Connecticut, Rhode Island, delivering ready-made food. They're probably our biggest scratch, but they got a lot of venture capital about them. Very, very cool organization. That's the end of my slides. There's a lot I can talk about. When you're talking about how long you talk.
So to that end, I want to get Patty up so we can do about 15-20 minutes with them, and then we'll have the last 20 minutes for discussion Q&A.
Thing.
Hi, everybody. I'll introduce myself while just getting my my name is Patty Smith. I'm from the Willimantic Food Co-op. I'm the general manager there. We're in Willimantic, Connecticut, downtown. And we are a full-service grocery store, cooperatively owned, and I'll about what that means in a minute. This is a photo of our staff, a couple Thanksgivings ago, as we were getting ready to gear up for one of our busiest days. We're a grocery store. We focus on organic, natural, specialty, and local foods. I'm gonna take you through a little bit of a history of, where we started up to, where we are now. So just a little bit about me. I've been, with the co-op, or I've been a member since 1996. And I've been working there for 17 years. This is my 17th year, at the co-op. I've, worked many jobs, worn many hats, as, you do at a co-op, a small business. I was the point of sale coordinator. That's how I started, with cashiering and managing inventory systems, and then took on the HR role. And just in January, I became the general manager, following a 40-year tenure of our previous general manager. So it's quite a leadership transition that we're still in. Next slide. And I have some notes that I might be looking down at, might need to reference them. So Willimantic Food Co. was established in the late 1970s. I'm pretty sure it was 79, but I couldn't track down our actual articles of incorporation because I saw some other document that said 76, but I'm pretty sure it's 79. It started as a buyers club, so a very informal group of sort of academics from UConn and Eastern Connecticut State University in the Willimantic and Stores area. They got together to buy health food together, natural food. They wanted to be able to access, health food wasn't as ubiquitous as it is now. We couldn't get it in every, corner store or Walmart. So they were looking to be able to buy these products at affordable prices.
No, I don't think that the Zoom audience was seeing the same screen share we were, based on what I saw. So keep talking, I'll find it.
They started as these buyers clubs. They'd meet in basements, church basements, and get together and order food from what was then, I think, actually a cooperative wholesaler called Northeast Co-ops, that then was in the late 90s or early 2000s bought out by United multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company with a whole different supply chain.
It's spinning its wheels. I don't know if I just lost the connectivity or not. So pretend that everybody can see pictures.
Right, so the photos that were up there showed the storefront back in 1980 when they finally decided to open a store, get out of the basement and get onto Main Street and open their first storefront. And it was a tiny little place, and there was a funny little Polaroid of our produce display way back then, just to kind of show how quaint it was and how humble. So without the visuals, I'll try to paint you a picture. So that was our first location, and we've relocated twice since then. So we moved from Main Street, we moved to a larger location about 11 years later, still in downtown Willimantic. And then spent another 15 years there, business continued to grow. And we ended up where we are now on Valley Street in Willimantic, in a much bigger store. We have about 5,300 square feet of retail and an 8,000 total square foot store. It'd be tough for me to do this.
I have an unending, you see my little
Yeah.
cycle. It doesn't seem, I can't even escape out of anything. And if I close this, we lose the Zoom audience. So Jocelyn's going to try to set up her laptop, at least for the folks here.
Okay.
Is Sarah, can they still hear us? Do you know?
Anybody want to take themselves off mute and let it, and confirm that you can hear us still?
We can hear you.
Okay, great, thank you. I see your question, Dan. The presentation isn't posted online, but I have copies of them, so they'll all go in the summary notes for the workshop. So even if you can't see them tonight, you'll be able to see them later. Yeah, go ahead. Bear with us, guys.
I could even join the Zoom and screen share.
Oh, look at that. Jocelyn's so smart. Except, oh, look at that. And now I can do all the things that I couldn't do before.
Okay. Let me plug this back in then.
Well, let me share first. We're winging it. No, still not giving me the share tray. So it stopped spinning its wheels, but it's still not giving me the function.
Okay, well, I will, give me a second here.
Everybody get another piece of pizza.
Stretch your legs.
I'll come back strong.
Yellow? Yeah. Starts to be my, can't have the station.
That one I did ready to. Yeah. Based on one. But I was.
Well, then, right. Yeah.
You can pick my mouth out of there.
Oh, I was just trying to let myself in.
It doesn't want to let you. Well, we have not great connectivity here. We're probably taxing the system too much. All right, so just bring it up for the in-room audience. This will be shared in the meeting notes. And this will allow Patty to continue her presentation. We're improvising. All right, fantastic. Everybody get back and pay attention again.
What I was going to actually start with is to say that, I wanted to thank you all for having me, and, to thank you because I get very excited when someone asks me to come and talk about co-op, because my friends and family are really tired of hearing me talk about the co-op all the time, like, oh, a fresh blood, so I'm very excited. So okay, back to 1979. So they decided at some point that they needed a store. So they decided to find a spot on Main Street and with this cute little window. I'm not sure what that display is all about. The summer theme, it doesn't look very food oriented, but you know, they weren't business people. They were just people who wanted to eat health food and hang out and build community. So so it was a very quaint little spot. So it did grow and they needed a bigger space. And so they found another space up the street around the block a little ways, and they employed all of these members and community people to help move the store from Main Street to the second location. So it was this human chain of basically literally just handing boxes to each other.
Paula was there. She just told me.
I don't recognize you. I think from the beginning of their first little shop.
Awesome.
We just kept following them, we moved to Woodstock
Yeah.
35 years ago, and I'm still going to.
I thought I recognized you, I'm like, oh, she's the wrong person.
So you can correct me on any history that I.
So that was the first human chain, so this is our second location on Meadow Street in Romantic. And we were there for about 15 years, and that was the new storefront, sort of equally quaint and humble. A slightly bigger produce display, slightly more professional, but still run by long hair hippies. That's our friend Brian, who is actually a well-seasoned farmer. Some of you may know Brian, but he worked at the co-op back then. And then in 2006, we were growing and growing, and we needed more space, more members, more customers, more food, more demand for a wider variety of products. And so it worked so well the first time that we decided to do it again, and we found this beautiful, well, we made it beautiful, new location on Valley Street, a couple blocks back from Main Street. So we're sort of moving gradually back from Main Street, but that's where we ended up. So our second human chain, and I was actually at that one, and so was my husband there, and our dog in a backpack. Somewhere in there, I think. That was us. So that brings us to where we are today. At 91 Valley Street, we have a beautiful garden, beautiful sidewalk out front. We lease this about 60% of the building that we're in from the people who own the building, and they own and operate a small package store. So it's kind of a nice synergy, because food and wine and beer go together pretty well. Usually, so we are going to turn 45 next February. We now have approximately 7,000 actively shopping member owners, and that's and about 85% of our sales are to members. So we do have some non-member shoppers. We now employ 38 people, mix of full and part-time. I'll talk a little bit more about employment later on. And we do, we're set to do about close to 8 million in sales this year. So we have been, once we hit this location, we had much greater visibility, much better facility, better merchandising, our staff grew, professionalism of the staff grew, and we just became much more widely sort of open out into the larger world from the sort of small club. It kind of a club-like feel back in the previous day, previous locations. So I mentioned the size of the store, and you can see sort of a contrast to that. Where in the Polaroid we have a gorgeous produce to see. That's only about half of it. So,
That's impressive sales for that square footage.
yeah, it's getting to be a little too much. We are, and I'll talk about that at the end of the little bit. We're needing to grow and expand space again. So I just wanted to talk a little bit, like, I don't know if this is pertinent to you or relevant to you, but I tried to sort of talk to Jocelyn, trying to figure out what I was going to talk about tonight. And I thought I'd talk a little bit about the cooperative business model. We can talk about sort of the store itself and what we sell, but I thought I was going to give you a little rundown on the cooperative business model in case that's something you all are possibly considering as an option. So a co-op's mission is sort of two-sided. There's a social and an economic side usually. And then you know, it's for this one, so I don't misspeak or don't miss anything. So co-ops tend to form when there's a gap in the market, a need that's not being met, or a market failure, or a social issue or cause that needs to be addressed. So that's typically the catalyst for a cooperative to form.
And they, again, like I said, usually have a dual mission. Sometimes it's a little bit more on the economic or business side. Sometimes it's a little bit more focused on social issue. It's formed to meet the needs of its members, but also the broader community. In our case, Willimantic Food Co-op, the need was, as I said before, access to natural and organic foods that weren't readily accessible, elsewhere at an affordable price. There was also this feeling that people wanted to buy their food at a small locally owned business as opposed to going to a large grocery store like Stop and Shop or something like that. There was definitely, a feeling of, wanting to support social causes, social justice, economic justice, and local ownership and control. And then there was also an environmental sustainability piece to that, as well as sustainable agriculture and local agriculture. So that was the need that was there, that was the reason that our co-op formed. So the way it works is that a co-op is a group of people, but it's built out of individuals, right? And so there's always this sort of there's an investment by individuals to serve a greater good. So the way co-ops are usually capitalized is by many individual small investments building up to a larger whole that serve the greater good. Right, so at first, the only capital that you have with a co-op is member investment at first. You might get loans, you might get some larger investments, but a cooperative is not a nonprofit organization. It's not a 501c3. It's actually incorporated. If it's incorporated as a cooperative, if your state happens to have a cooperative statute that's friendly to incorporate under, you can do that, but you are treated as a for-profit business. And so you do have to pay taxes and all of that. So the way it's capitalized is through member investment, initially buying member shares. And then over time, hopefully, you're also being funded by your sales or whatever business you're running. So in the Willimantic Food Co-op's case, currently the individual investment is $120, which is not necessarily affordable for everyone, but it's a relatively small investment on the individual basis. And we have a payment plan where you can pay it in $20 installments over the course of 6 years. And so we have that, and then of course there's shopping in the store, and that builds equity, and that's where the revenue comes in.
So Patty, the $120 member share, that is a one-time, that's not an annual membership
That is
fee?
one time, and that is, we do break it up into $20 payments year over year. So in practice, it sort of feels like it's an annual fee, but it's actually not. You're building towards to being a full invested member. Now that's not that we don't use the term lifetime member specifically because if for some reason the co-op needed more capital, needed to raise capital, was for some reason just didn't have enough money, the membership may vote to increase the member investment share. Right. So and in fact, when we started on Main Street, it was $3, I think, to join, or it was $3 a month. I don't have all the, but it was much lower, right? And that was one of the problems, one of the challenges we faced in moving from our second location to our third location is we were undercapitalized. We didn't have enough equity. It was because the member investment was too low. So the membership, there was a information, campaign, education, and the members had to vote, and that's when they raised it to 120, and it's been there for probably about 25 years now. So all of that individual investment has added up to a collective effect, and, to the point where the co-op now has, almost $2.5 million in equity. And about half of that is member shares, and the other half is in retained earnings from profit, over the years. So you can see how the individual investment builds up to this collective benefit. And then just going over to the benefit side, there is also a benefit to the individual. First of all, you have access to the goods or services that you need. You have control over that through representative democracy, basically, and I'll talk about that, and then our governance model in a minute. And then members usually get some kind of benefit, financial individual benefit, like a discount or a lower cost in some way. So that's the individual benefit. The collective benefit of building up all of this equity and using this model is that you're keeping the money in your community, you're building wealth for the people in your community. Hopefully that will last over generations, not just for your current members, but you're building it over time, and that money stays in your community. And then there's a sort of communal aspect, a sort of a sense of shared purpose and mutual aid that is also a collective benefit of operating as a cooperative.
In your co-op, do members have to do hours?
I'm going to talk about that in a minute. It's a great question. Yes, I have a whole slide on it. Thank goodness. So another, and I'll get to the member labor in a moment, but just another thing that sort of sets the cooperative model apart is that generally cooperatives operate according to a set of principles and values. And the 7 cooperative principles are over here, and then the 6 cooperative values, there's a whole set of values too, but the cooperative values are over here. Now, the 7 cooperative principles were made up by this this group of old white guys who were more respectfully known as the Rochdale Society of Equitable Pioneers. And they were a group of weavers, textile workers in Manchester, England, and they basically formed the Rochdale Cooperative, which is sort of typically known as the first consumer cooperative, modern day consumer cooperative. And they really set out these principles as a way to set themselves apart and what they were trying to do with their cooperative, apart from what they had access to otherwise, which was like basically the company store. So, and the prices that the company store set. And so they said, we want to do things our own way. We want to help ourselves. We want to, we want to raise ourselves up. We want to run our own business and set our own prices and access our own goods. So the 7 cooperative principles here and the values there, and that's over there. That is the original location of the co-op, and it's still there. I haven't been there, but it's still there in England. Okay, so member labor and employment. Now, I didn't mention earlier there were many different types of co-ops, and different types of co-ops have different types of member owners and members. We at the Willimantic Food Co-op are a consumer-owned co-op, so our shoppers are the people who own the store. There are also worker co-ops, worker-owned co-ops. There are market producer or farmer-owned co-ops, right? So there's different groups of people who are doing different types of things that can use the cooperative model to meet their needs, which is a really great thing about it is it's so flexible. So I'm going to talk about member labor in the context of a consumer-owned cooperative, as opposed to a worker co-op, which is really worker-owned, and that's a whole other ball of wax. So over here in the green, when you're a startup cooperative, almost all of your labor is volunteer. right? Everybody's donating their time, they're getting together like you all are getting together here, they're sitting in somebody's living room, they're saying, we really need a grocery store in this town, we really, you know, don't wanna have to, you know, maybe they're in a food desert or a place that has low access to food or whatever the case may be. But they're getting together as a labor of love and saying, we need to get this started, so nobody's getting paid. As you as you get closer, if your group has gained some momentum and starts to build membership, eventually, hopefully you get to the point where you have secured a location, you're gonna open a store, and then you need to start to think about who's gonna run the store. And so generally by that time, you've got a board of directors, hopefully it's still all volunteer unpaid. You need to hire a general manager. And so that usually is the first person that a co-op hires, and it's usually their only paid employee for a while. Now, again, I need to look at my notes so I just don't miss anything here. Because this is important, this whole thing about labor. As the co-op grows, and I'm kind of talking about like in the olden days, and the days when the Willimantic food co-ops formed in the 70s and 80s, we call that the second wave of food co-ops in the United States. A whole bunch of co-ops in the country formed at that time and were still around. They didn't have a lot of money. They weren't very professionalized, right? It was a small business kind of thing, and so they couldn't pay for a lot of employees. So sometimes there would be this mix of working members and paid employees. The 50-50 thing is just, it's just to kind of give you the visual that there's a combination there. At the Willimantic Food Co-op, we actually still have a working member program. It's becoming increasingly rare to have working member programs for a variety of reasons that I can talk about if you're interested. But primarily the store is run by paid employees.
So in the working member case, is that a work in place of membership fee? Is that the offset?
So it's different depending on which co-op you're at. So Mike mentioned Park Slope, which is a great example that I have in my notes too for this, because Park Slope is all member labor. Like, you cannot be a member. There's a member labor requirement. So if you're a member, you have to work. I think I looked at their website the other day. You have to put in, I think, 2.5 hours every 6 weeks, something like that. And you've got thousands and thousands and thousands of members. You also can't shop at Park Slope unless you're a member. So it's very, specific. Our store is open to the public. You don't have to be a member to shop. There is no member labor requirement. There used to be when we first started, but over time it became harder and harder to run the store with member labor that wasn't paid. People weren't available. People weren't, there was lots of different reasons why that became unsustainable. So we, shifted to a paid employee model. At our store, you can work, we put in member labor, and you get an additional discount at the register. So it's compensated that way. That answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. So as I said, as co-ops get bigger and more successful, and as the regulatory environment it becomes, stringent, and there's more litigation and things like that, more labor laws and all of that, it becomes increasingly risky to actually have member labor in your stores. So a lot of co-ops are retiring their member labor programs. We haven't quite gotten there yet.
You said that was a small percentage.
For our store, it is very small. We have, in terms of like people, with 38 paid employees, we have probably 20 to 25 working members, but in terms of the hours worked, it's very small. So I'm talking about actual employees now. My management team would be just mortified that I put this line up here, but this is us having fun at a management meeting. I made them put these little things on their head, again, but, so these are some of our employees. Right now, we have adopted a living wage of $18 an hour. That's our starting wage. Our average wage is closer to like 25 right now. We have a mix of part-time and full-time employees. We focus a lot on staff development and training. We'd like to promote folks from within and help people build careers in the co-op. We offer health insurance and to our full-timers, and the co-op pays 78% of that premium. The employees kick in 20, the other 2%. We offer a matching IRA. We have a 25% staff discount. We practice something called open book management, which is a whole other workshop, so we won't get into that, but it's basically a way of bringing the staff into running the business, opening the books to them, sharing the numbers, and getting their input and working together towards shared success as a team. And we have a lot of fun. We really do. Governance. So I mentioned before that there's a sort of a representative democracy here. And this goes back to cooperative principle number 2, democratic member control. It's one member, one vote, right? And so our board of directors here has been elected by our members. They are all members. That is a requirement. You have to be a member to be on the board. They're on 3-year terms that are staggered. So every year, 2, sometimes 3 people are up for election. And we use a governance model called policy governance, which again is another whole workshop. But essentially what that, in practice, what that looks like is the board hires the general manager and supervises the general manager. The general manager is their only employee, and the general manager is given within constraints built around policies, the freedom to run the business as they see fit, as long as they're hitting certain benchmarks and certain metrics that the board lays out as a fiduciary steward of the members' assets. Makes sense? Use a lot of words. Okay. Community. So.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Your members, so on your other side, you had 7,000 members.
Yes.
How many roughly, or what percentage of them would you say actively participate sort of like in those operational things, voting, attending meetings, those sorts of things?
Minuscule amount.
So most are just shoppers.
1%, if we're lucky. We just, I just started tracking the voter turnout for board elections and attendance at annual meetings. It's very, very small. It's getting bigger now that we have online voting. I mean, it jumped tremendously, but to get people to show up at the annual meeting, we're always talking about this at the co-op, like we want more member engagement, we want more member involvement and participation. And that we do, because we need to have a good pipeline for board members, and we want, something, bigger and more involved. At the same time, the most important way to participate in a consumer-owned co-op is to shop there. So for me, we're making $7 million in sales every year. We have 86% of that is from members. We have awesome member involvement, awesome member participation. So there's kind of some different ways to look at that.
So I'm just gonna point out, we've got about 10 minutes left, and I don't know how many slides you've got.
This is, I think, my last one.
Oh, look at that,
Actually.
perfect.
So this is just to kind of touch on the community aspect of it, right? Aside from the business side, we are very much involved in our community in lots and lots of different ways. I didn't put them on the slide, but we have a local food business incubator, akin to Hope and Main, and we were talking about that earlier. It's Click, and it was actually born out of a lot of co-op members and wanting to build a community kitchen that was operated along cooperative principles. So they're not on this slide, my bad on that, but in the center here, we had, we were just kind of like marveling one day when we were writing checks, that we had $20,000 in checks just that day going out to local producers. Which we felt kind of proud of, and so we wanted to shout that out a little bit on social media. We have a fair, we host a fair every year in downtown Willimantic that's open to the public and free. We have makers and food vendors and live music and all kinds of stuff. That's called our Downtown Country Fair. We participate in local events like the Earth Day event at Eastern. We helped this group called Grow Wyndham Startup, which is a youth-centered farming, gardening kind of and like empowerment, youth empowerment organization. So the co-op is very much helps to start that. We do things like this last week we had Juneteenth, and we celebrated by donating 10% of our sales that day to the local chapter of NAACP. And then we have a roundup program, which was our Meals on Wheels, which I think was in March. And so it's just that everybody does roundup now. When you round up to the next dollar at the register and you raise lots of money. Again, that's sort of same model of individual contributions adding this greater good. What's next for the co-op? We do need to grow. We do need to expand. We're running out of space. We don't have a prepared foods program. We don't have a kitchen in our store. We need probably to build a kitchen. We do own some property. I told you we lease our current space, but we did buy some property across the street a few years ago, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to do with that land. It's not quite suitable for our needs, so we're looking at other options there. And then we're planning to implement a new member benefit called Food for All, which will be a discount, a needs-based discount in the store, and it will be a member benefit. So, and those memberships will also be subsidized by donated funds. So that's it.
So obviously we lost a little Q&A time to our technical issues, but we still want to have it because that's like the point of these workshops is not just that people come and talk to us, it's that we ask questions, and there were some questions, but for Patty and Mike and Allison, knock yourselves out, guys. Ask them what you want to ask them while we're all here together.
I have a question, Mike. So you have your business to business event. As part of that, do you connect producers with your members too? Like sort of the earlier stages of the business to business connection? So I want to make hot sauce and I have a certain producer who grows the pepper I like.
Yeah, so there's some of that happens. In a couple of different ways. We have a food insecurity program. We call Nation Meals, so we have grant funding to pay members to make meals that get donated in the community. Part of that, a little bit indirectly, 10% of the ingredients in that have to be locally grown. So those ingredients come from farm fresh. You're not familiar with farm fresh. So local food. There are, we do make intentional connections. Mostly it's local farms that are specialty crop producers that reach out, that are looking to connect directly to makers. Those are, for me, some of the most fun relationships to build out. Previously, I worked at Equal Exchange for a long time. So I had a lot of farm focus with cooperative farm, small, basically, mainly in coffee, like in wild, but we do specifically to the hot sauce one. Rishi Spice of Life is a Trinidadian hot sauce maker at Open Maine, who we connected with Heartbeat Farms in Mass, who grows, they contract pre-harvest, pre-planting, they contract, this is how many peppers I need, this is the type of pepper. August peak tomato sauce, he jars only fresh tomato sauce, it's a seasonal business. We connected him directly with Ross Farms, who's contract growing tomatoes for the member. For the member, that's the most cost-effective way to get local ingredients, because on the market, local ingredients are generally cost prohibitive for maker businesses, because they can't afford to buy them at scale. So those connections that we can make them are awesome. And it's that local dollar. See what the farmer grows, that sells, right, makes that dollar. That person makes a sauce with that. It's another dollar. It stays in the community, goes to Willimantic Co-op. Somebody at Willimantic Co-op buys that. It's another dollar right there in Willimantic that gets spent. That keeps that local dollar in their economy.
Anybody else? Come on now, don't leave me to do the whole wrap up. You're gonna make me do it, but Joanne's got it.
How do you become a member?
Well, we have, you know, the nuts and bolts as you go online.
Do you pay?
Yeah, so our services aren't free. We charge $60 a month as our membership fee. We charge for kitchen hours. If you rent the kitchen from us. And you rent storage from us. Almost everything else is free.
But if you could walk in off the street as a new member and pay $60 for a month.
Yeah, we do have onboarding costs. We require every new business to take a set of 10 classes. We charge money for the classes. And that's also probably part of the secret sauce of that it can. You have to put the effort in to learn how to run a food business before you can.
Okay, great.
start to- yeah.
Do you have room for people or?
We do. Yeah, we do. We're actually opening 7 more kitchens in Providence.
Wow.
So we're the first.
Does it have to stay in Rhode Island? Can you arrange to?
That's what we're doing, Joanna. That's why we're here today. So yeah, thanks to all of you, Allison and Mike and Patty, for coming out. So we contextualize this a little bit for you. So to put these speakers in context for our next steps, right? Because we've got 3 more months of these workshops under the USDA UAIP grant. And then the project partners and I will write sort of the master plan, and that's going to include what we see as our next action steps to bring the facility online, from the first ones we're already working on with getting a capstone project through the high school to document the project and start doing that stuff, to some of the maybe this facility is cooperative in nature. I've always kind of had that in the back of my mind as the sort of the lowest bar to getting started. You know, and how do we incorporate this idea of incubation? Our facility won't, strictly speaking, have a commercial kitchen, but we have access to one at our social services agency. For the educational aspect, probably through the high school, they have a brand new culinary program there. So for the next month, for July's workshop, the focus I would like with this group to be discussing what the structure is going to be. Right, because so far it's been all the components. It's been what are the priorities in the community? We did the game, and we sort of distilled out what people envisioned in broad terms. And then we did a lot of work on the permaculture thing, because you know that's physical site work, and it's that interesting sort of shiny new toy piece of the project. And then we've spent a few months now talking about the direct connection to our public school district. So now we want to start stitching them together. How does it become a business resource? Again, connecting to the school. What is the operational structure? What kind of capacity? So keep those things in mind. And I don't know, anybody else have any questions?
I just wanted to share that the ag survey is still available online. So if you are a producer or you are interested in starting a food business, you have a food business, you know someone with a food business, please check out the Connecticut RC&D website. There's a link on the front page to a survey that will help us understand your needs, what services that this facility could provide you, training, resources that are needed. So Allison, when you were talking, I was thinking about, oh, okay, so maybe having, you know, someone like through Farm Up being able to connect you with NRCS, you know, obviously you've already done that, but maybe that's something that it's a hub for that sort of thing. So those are the things that we're trying to learn through the survey, and it's still active and will be probably through July. And then I guess I wanted to I did a lot of the coordinating for the speakers, so I really wanted to thank you for your time. I had great conversations with them outside of this meeting, and I felt that we are talking about these big lofty goals for 65 Main Street, and I hope that tonight they were able to show you what could be, and really start giving that visual, tangible, example of what could have been there. And we have a blank slate, which is the exciting part, but they're all doing amazing work in their communities and our communities. So thank you all.
Thanks again, guys. So it's 8:01. So I'll call it so we don't keep the library staff late. I didn't mean to stop you from applauding our fine guests either. As usual, clean up your food, your chairs, help pack it up, make it easier for the staff, and we'll see you at the next one. Thanks, guys, from online.